Good afternoon, Philip.
Hello, Charles. How are you?
Nice to see you again. Now, you're chairman of the Angel Business Club. How did you get involved with it?
It goes back a while, Charles, because in fact I originally met it, its previous guise, because I knew a lawyer in Sweden whose client was Viral Angels.
All right.
He came to me and he said he thought Viral Angels was a very interesting business, had a tiger by the tail, but they were running foul of certain regulatory inquiries. Could I provide some degree of cover in Britain, because I had regulated businesses here? I met the company, was intrigued by the business model, but saw and witnessed his concerns about regulatory issues, so decided and advised on the creation of a new entity where we could take all that was good about Viral Angels, wrap it in a wholly transparent, wholly regulated environment, and move on from there. And that's how I became involved.
That seems to make a lot of sense. So what's your background? I mean, have you worked in private equity or corporate finance?
Well, I've always been in the city, Charles. I mean, my first job was a 9-to-5 stockbroker. Simple as that, selling shares to the great unwashed. In fact, in my case, the great unwashed were the biggest institutions in the land, because I was very lucky, because I was made head of institutional sales, what was then, or what became quite soon after that, London's biggest corporate stockbroker.
All right. So
I was there through the great 70s and 80s when, frankly, the city was fun, selling the world to the world. I always had a penchant for small businesses. I'd set up a business in South Africa, where I come from, in 1969. I had the 1,000 rand in the garage. My two mates had the ability, and we sold that to Bell & Howell 2 years later. So I've always been, in a sense, 9 to 5 for the proper job, but actually very intent on becoming involved in small businesses on the side. So I went on to become chief exec of the National Research Development Corporation, which was an intriguing entity, because it was actually established by the Labour government in 1948 in this country, because I'd come back to England, having left South Africa, and we used taxpayers' money to back high-risk English innovation.
Wow.
It was massively successful, I mean hugely successful. Interesting for a government department, effectively, but I was chief exec at 26, so I was quite young. But then it got caught up in the politics of the next Labour government and was merged with a thing called the National Enterprise Board, which was the kiss of death.
Oh.
So I went on there. I've always, big battalions, I became chief exec of Merrill Lynch, but I kept on doing things on the side, much to the irritation of my employers. And I finally left Merrill Lynch in 87 and set up an island with a investment administration business, which we sold to the State Street Bank of America. So I've always been a business starter and a business seller. There comes a time to sell.
Yeah.
And that was in 2004. And since then, I have started and built a number of moderately successful, nothing has yet changed the world. Maybe ABC will be different. But built up and developed a number of small companies, normally as chairman, master of all tricks, specialist in none, and ending up, as I was, in starting the Angel Business Club. So it's a world I know well.
Oh, very good. Okay. So, I mean, for the ordinary man in the street who would like to invest in private companies, what's the advantage of becoming a member of the Angel Business Club as opposed to something like crowdfunding?
Well, I think crowdfunding is a remarkable phenomenon. And there's no doubt now that, in fact, peer-to-peer lending, peer-to-peer investment, crowdfunding, the crowd, has become a significant element in our financial system. But I feel it has limitations, and those limitations are, I think, the strengths of ABC. The great issue in the modern world is the attitude of regulators to private investment. What's peculiar is you and I could lose our shirt on a soccer match. You might back Wolves, I might back Spurs. We could lose our shirt. And the FCA couldn't care less. But you and I say we want to put £500 into our favourite little company, and they say we don't know what we're doing. They tell us we can't. It's peculiar. So as a result, I think it's that frustration that the small man has felt about being economically excluded from the best advice, and yet being regulated from good advice, leads him to participate in things like crowdfunding, where he can back, on a whim, something he likes the sound of. The great virtue of the Angel Business Club is that, in fact, we have the power of our membership. That's relevant because, in fact, the average crowdfunding investment is probably £400 to £500.
Yep.
Well, in fairness, that's probably 4 or 5 months membership fee by a typical member of the ABC. But of course, when we have 2, 3, 4,000 members, it actually gives us quite considerable buying power. So it means that, in fact, as an entity, we can be invited by quite significant houses to provide them with predictable capital that otherwise they can't find. So as a result, it gives us a buying power and a cherry-picking potential that other crowdfunds don't have. You go on, you invest your £500, the crowdfunding site never knows how successful it will be until, in fact, they find out it hasn't been as successful as they hoped it would be. So, in fact, the company either has not enough money, or happily, it might have enough money. You then have, or don't have, what the ABC brings, which is a remarkable participation in companies. You know, I've invested in crowdfunding, I've never met the management, and I suspect if I tried, they wouldn't want to meet me. But of course, with ABC, what you have is this tremendous interplay between our members and our company's management, which I think is a mutually beneficial experience. The members learn about their investment, and the companies learn the value of human capital. They can be taken places they wouldn't otherwise go, because that was always my mantra with ABC.
Yep.
We take the small investor where he otherwise would never go. Equally, ABC takes companies places they might never go. So I think these few changes on a theme is what give ABC its remarkable advantage over the traditional crowdfunding site. And as we grow, of course, that'll be enhanced.
That's very good. Now, at the end of the day, obviously people would like to join the club and make a profit. So how do you find companies which are likely to make a decent return for people? Now, Dominic has explained to me you concentrate more and more on later stage funding, not so much seed funding like crowdfunding. So obviously you're reducing the risk on that side. But how do you find the right companies to invest in? That must be a real skill there.
One would like to think so. One would like to. And I think, the old adage, it's management.
Yeah.
It really is management. And I think, in fact, when you meet management, you know on day one, if they're a group of people, a team of people, an individual who has the vision, the drive, and really the drive. I think that dreadful cliche, it's 5% inspiration, 95% perspiration, is actually correct.
Yep.
It's the people who strive for success, who demand success, who will not live without success, are the ones you want to back. And at the NRDC, where we had very significant monies involved, and many, many millions of taxpayers' money, time and time again I saw examples of good ideas ruined by bad management, and really quite ordinary ideas made very successful by good management. It's all about management, Charles. You can't always get it wrong. You wanted rounded teams, you want complementary skills, you want teams that work together. But I think quite simply, it's trying to pick out those people who will take their company and you as a shareholder from here to there, because that's where they intend getting.
Right, and I understand from Dominic, because you have a profit every month, you're in a position where you've got cash on the table, whereas obviously crowdfunders don't.
No.
So
quite simply, one of the major problems, again, it's a function of regulation, and frankly, I think it's rather daft, but one of our investments came from a very, very good house, who internally, under the same name, has probably 7 billion under management.
Wow.
But because of the Chinese walls, the people trying to raise money for the company couldn't go to the company's own clients because regulation debarred them. So as a result, that company's access to early stage finance was desperately difficult. So they could come to us because they knew we could commit, knowing our members' fees would come in regularly, month to month, we could commit to a cash flow funding that actually saved the company's bacon, because it was going to market to raise a more significant sum of money, but it had to get from here to there. And of course it had its advisors, its to be paid, its bills to be paid. By knowing that we were on side with X thousand pounds every month for shares the right price, the FD slept at night.
Very good.
The job got done. That's our great strength.
All right, now Dominic tells me you've had a couple of companies actually go to market, which is very good.
Yes.
And that's within the last 2 years alone.
Well, within last year, really.
Last year, right.
We're talking about Widesell and Path, and they've both gone within the last 12 months.
That's very good.
It's not bad. I mean, considering where we started, it's good. I think we'd like to have rather more than that. But in all honesty, I think the companies we are backing now are more likely to find a trade sale than a listing. You know, one of the great anomalies of the stock market is people, in fact, think it lists is a time to get in. In reality, it's a time to get out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, very much so, yeah.
So, in fact, I think increasingly we see our investments very much with a weather eye on, is this a business which is disrupting a market leader's world? Because if it is, that market leader is going to want it.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to buy a young company than recreate it.
Yeah.
So I think, in fact, our eye is on finding those investments led by ambitious, driven management teams who are going to become very much a target for a big buyer.
Well, it's interesting you talk about trade sales, because I went to a talk recently given by Joe Fairley, who started up Green and Black's Chocolate.
Yeah.
And they had all their money tied up in stock, so they had problems expanding, so they actually got funding and then had a trade sale to Cadbury's, and she got a huge check, and thank you very much. Yeah. So not everything goes to market, but as you say, I mean, it's either goes to market or a trade sale, so there's potential profit for investors. Indeed. There.
Well, I think you'll find, Charles, and I haven't done the stats, but I did look at them a couple of years ago, that of companies sold, or of companies realised, investments realised, in a 12-month period, I think in about 2005-06, before the crash hit, I mean, it was 85-15 trade sales to public listings. You know, a huge majority of trade sales.
Yeah.
And frankly, you know, unless you're going to become an enormous business, that actually is the more effective way out.
Yeah. Very good.
Now, you know, maybe people think they are going to become an enormous business, but I think on balance, you know, if in fact you've had a swinging return on your early stage investment, a trade sale is frankly the least stressful.
Yeah, that sounds very good. So, what sort of returns can, you know, a club member expect at the end of the day?
Well, we, you know, there are no guarantees, are there?
We know, it's high risk. It's higher risk to the extent that it's a private company, and not every private company is going to be a huge success. That's something I understand, and obviously anybody who joins the club should realise that as well.
Well, I think that's right. I think what's interesting, I mean, the old adage in venture capital is 1 in 7 works,
right?
Which is a pretty lousy ratio. But I think, in fact, in the Angel Business Club, we as yet have. To say we've had 100% success is not true, because some companies are still yet to be as successful as we'd like them to be.
Right.
But I think we're quite good at avoiding monumental failures. And I think it's because we're actually very assiduous in backing teams we feel will be successful. With us, it's a question of being successful, it's a question of how successful. So I think we try and mitigate risk by not taking flyers on untried technology, on not taking flyers on businesses where there hasn't been third-party endorsement, ideally not taking flyers on companies which don't have early-stage revenue, so that we gradually knock away things which are causes for concern and causes which exacerbate risk. So we try and play a low-risk game in a high-risk industry. And so far, I think, so good.
That sounds good. So, I mean, Angel Business Club was set up, just under 2 years ago, is it? And so, I mean, in terms of strike price, from what members, any idea what returns have been?
We did a strategy. I think anyone who's been here from our day one, I think their pound has become £1.50, or their euro has become €1.50. That's pretty good. From day one. Those who've been with us over the year, so to speak, or the 18 months, I think we're now looking at something like a 23% return.
Very nice.
Which by any standards is good.
Well, it's better than good.
Yes, it's good.
So if you put your money in the bank and you're getting less than 1% most of the time.
Yes, but I think we...
Central London property prices are going down?
Well yes, but you can kick and touch it, can't you?
Yeah, that's true.
But I think on balance, I think if we can produce year in, year out a return north of 20, we're doing incredibly well. As is our member.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think I'd be very happy with that. I am a member, so hopefully we'll continue to do that, because I'd like that very much at the end of the day. So, what are the other benefits of being part of the Angel Business Club?
Well, I mean, it is a community.
Good.
And I think, in fact, you have all the aspects of community. I mean, I know It's funny because I attended my first meeting was Heathrow Airport, and I met a member that day who I've met at every event since, and in a sense I've watched him grow, and that sounds rather patronising because it's not me being a functionary. I've watched him grow, but here is somebody who has had success in his portfolio. He's learned a great deal more about how companies work.
Yep.
He's set up his own company because he's learnt that. He's met other members who he now interacts with. He's had fun at events. He's gone on a club holiday. So I think it brings a lot of aspects to investing which are otherwise lost to you if you're just investing in Barclays emerging situations.
Yeah, that's the great thing which I've also seen about the site, is there's an educational aspect which actually teaches people about investment, which you don't really get elsewhere. I haven't really seen it elsewhere, which is great. You have the webinars, so you can, and also you actually get to meet the directors of the companies you're actually investing in.
Well, I think I said it earlier. I think that's a huge advantage, and I think it's very relevant because I've got a number of investments. If I were to meet the management, despite the fact I might have a modest influence, forget it.
Yeah.
If they turn up at the AGM, I'm lucky. If I ask them a difficult question, I won't get an answer.
None of us do we?
But in fact, here on webinars or events, what have you, I've seen some of our company chief execs get asked real sort of fast balls, and they deal with it. And I think that's very good. But equally, in having them answered, it's very instructive for the member, because it's building up a commercial experience that isn't available to anyone investing, as I say, in a traditional unit trust. It's not available.
No, this is very true. So
the curiosity is either resented or it's not available. The answer is not available because no one actually knows.
No, that's very good. So if somebody actually wants the opportunity of the possibility of making a reasonably good return from investing in private companies, doesn't know anything about it, Angel Business Club is probably an ideal place to look for.
Well,
obviously you're biased, so am I, 'cause I'm a member. But
yes, I'm.
But what's the alternative?
Well, I don't think there is actually any direct alternative. On day one, I'm quite proud of my two little sort of strap lines. On day one, I invented the one about we take you places rather like Heineken beer. We take you places you otherwise wouldn't go. I've got a new one. Why wouldn't you be a member?
Very good.
There's absolutely no reason why, for a modest sum of money, which you'd probably spend 2 nights down at the pub or a day at the races, you actually can be a member, benefit from a return of, I would hope, in excess of 20%, and also have all the benefits of the interaction with the club and the businesses which it brings. Why wouldn't you be a member?
Well, there's even the prize draw for a kilo of gold, which is, of course, very exciting. Which,
not quite a kilo.
Well, whatever it is, I'm not sure.
It's a lumpy sum.
A lumpy sum, it'd be very nice indeed.
It would be, yes. It would be.
That would be fantastic.
It would be.
Okay, well, that's very helpful, and I'm sure potential people who are interested in joining the club, would love to hear more.
And the fact that the one thing I would say is, not just our investment managements available for questioning, we're available.
That's great.
We're a very transparent organisation, and I regularly get emails from members who, I must confess, I've never met. But they ask me, some fastball question, which comes out of the blue, but we try and answer it.
That's great.
Because with that, they're better prepared to meet their peer group, talk about the club, and move on from there.
That's brilliant. That's great. Thank you very much, Philip.
My pleasure, Charles. Thank you.